Let me welcome all of you to this webinar. And I have with me Mr. Abhishek Ramesh, Secretary DIPP, also here. And our objective today is to take you through various methods of payment by which India can become a cashless and a digital payment country. We have Our objective is that demonetization must lead to minimal cash, and over a period of time India must become cashless. So government of India has constituted a committee in which all senior officers are present, and I also take this opportunity to welcome Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Mrs. Aruna Sundarajan. So there are three senior officers who are here. Both Secretary DIPP and Secretary Information Technology are here. They are driving this movement towards a digital payment society. There are various methods by which all transaction can be done digitally. There is the universal payment interface, which we'll take you through. There are the wallets. There are the POS machines through which there can be prepaid cards, there can be debit cards, etc. And there is the USSD by which you can use mobile, including GSM mobiles in rural areas, to transfer money. And there is also the Aadhaar enabled payment system. So all methods are available. And I would request my colleague from NITI Aayog to make the presentation one by one. But before that, I request Mr. Abhishek Ramesh to say a few words, and then Aruna to say a few words on.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Mr. Amitabh Kant has said, it's a great opportunity for us to adapt to these very innovative technologies, various payment systems as per the convenience of everyone. But as we have to adopt technology, the GST is going to be implemented next year from April. I think it's really high time that businesses adopt and adapt to these new payment methods because we have to become a more compliant society as well. This will lead to an overall growth of the economy, and this will provide convenience to consumers. So I think this is something that we all have to adapt, and I encourage you to look at this presentation very carefully. And the government is here to support you in this entire work. We will provide you whatever support is required, but this is something this has to be done. So encourage all of you to pay attention. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. I believe that we have the CII Association leaders and members from the entire country available here. So I think this is a very important interaction. And what we would ideally like to accomplish at the end of this meeting is that all of you have an understanding of how uh, convenient it is actually to adopt these new methods of banking, financial inclusion, and payment. Because apart from the aspect of compliance, which my colleague Ramesh Abhishek flagged, I think it is equally important that people are allowed or enabled to transact as conveniently and as efficiently as possible. And I think what the new payment mechanisms, all the new digital payment arrangements which are going to be demonstrated to you, what I hope they will be able to convey is how easy it is to enroll into the system. In fact, it does away with a lot of the hassles of conventional banking, as well as a lot of the additional infrastructure and inconveniences that used to be there. So, one of the objectives, as I mentioned, would be to show you how exactly any agent can go about it. How, for example, somebody who wishes to be a merchant can enroll into the system and start, accepting cashless payments almost immediately on the fly. Similarly, how somebody who wishes to actually make a payment but does not need to do it using cash. This again, you will see from the demonstration how easy it is. And we want to hear from you, what are your suggestions on how to encourage proliferation and adoption in the fastest possible manner? You have a very large reach. Your members are there in every sector of the economy. So, if you can really mobilize your members, if you can really help us have a effective outreach campaign, I think then this whole task before us becomes much easier, and we should be able to actually have a very large ecosystem enabled at the same time. So, we will look forward to your feedback and interaction after the demonstration. Thank you, Amitabh.
You should be able to see on your screen a short presentation titled Digital Payments. We'll be taking you through the step by step instructions on how to make and accept payments through the currently available mechanisms for digital transactions. Uh, Let me start with points of sale, or more better commonly known as POS, which a lot of you are probably familiar with, especially the physical POSs. Most of you have seen them in some establishment or the other. So the physical POSs are machines which run on the networks of payment systems. Users with credit cards or debit cards or bank cards issued by banks swipe these machines, which collect the information, put them on the network. The user validates his or her intention to transact with a PIN code, and the receipt is generated as a record of transaction. This, I believe, would be familiar to a lot of people. About 15 lakh POS machines are in use in the country currently, so fairly wide penetration. However, we need more, and there are new and cheaper ways of going and accessing the transaction gateways. Um, the next wave of technology is mobile POSs, which run on the data networks of mobile phones. So you don't need a dedicated landline or a dedicated machine. On a simple phone registered with the network, a smartphone, you can add a little device which reads the magnetic strip on the cards, and allows the phone to access the network and conduct the transaction, along with the verification by the user. The user enters the pin and the verification system is the same. So it just makes the POS machine cheaper, easier to install, and with the reliability of data networks and mobile networks, much easier to implement at a very quickly and at a low cost compared to a physical POS. Now I'm going to the virtual POS system, of which you are starting to see a few implementations around the country, and we hope these will expand very quickly. These allow the merchant to have a static representation of his or her bank details in a barcode, or most likely a QR code, and the transaction is initiated at the end of the user using his or her mobile phone, who scans this QR code and provides his or her authorization to conduct the transaction, conduct the payment on the payment network. So all three kinds of POS, the physical POS, mobile POS, and virtual POS, conduct the same conduct the same transaction on the same network with slightly differing hardware requirements. On the next slide, I will talk to you about the documentation required to access the payment networks. There's an Indian network called RuPay. There are also Visa and MasterCard, many of which you have heard of. So to have a POS terminal or to have access to the network, you need to register as a merchant. So you need to have your shop and establishment registration certificate. You have your VAT certificate and sales tax. Some banks will also require you to have the photo identity proof of the proprietor or the partner who's operating the establishment, as well as the bank and financial statements. As soon as you provide this documentation, the bank should be able to enable your access into the network. So you can start accessing more than 70 crore debit cards and bank cards already in use in the country. So it's a huge user base, and a large amount of those are used very frequently. And to us, this is the easiest way for a merchant looking to get into the digital economy. For those users or for those merchants who don't have a smartphone, India has already, for the last 4 years, had a system called the USSD, Unstructured Supplementary Service Data System, which allows every phone, mobile phone, to with a GSM connection to conduct transaction. You do not need a smartphone. Even the old feature phones, the ones with the buttons that we remember, are able to make this transaction. This transaction requires activation by the bank, and once the activation is done, so account is linked to a mobile number, the user is issued a mobile money ID, an MMID, which and a MPIN, which is then used to make transactions. The user needs to visit a branch or an ATM to do that linking first. Once that is done, the system is very simple to use. It's as simple as sending an SMS. On the next slide, once you have a MMID, which is called the mobile money identifier, you have an MPIN, which in a sense replaces your ATM pin. You use these two credentials to undertake transactions. You press *99# on any phone. Again, I repeat, it could be a smartphone, it could be a regular feature phone. And as soon as you press this, the channel opens which allows this transaction, and it gives you, now on the screen you'll see an example process flow of how a transaction will be made. So once you open this channel, once you authorize the network to allow you to make transactions on this channel, it'll give you a free options on what kind of transaction you want to do, whether it's a balance inquiry, whether it's a fund transfer, it's a payment, it could be about changing your MPIN. You put in your options. Let's say if you're making a payment, you put in the mobile money identifier of the counterparty, you put in the amount, any remarks if you want to, confirm that this is the transaction you want to undertake, and send the money. This money gets transferred from your account directly to the recipient's bank account, and it's as simple as sending a few SMSs. I must emphasize here that the system is being made simpler as we speak. In the next few weeks, you'll see rollout of a few features which will make the transaction even easier, reduce a few more steps, still maintain integrity and safety of the system, and make it easier for a large number of Indians. More than two-thirds of Indians use feature phones or the regular basic phones. So enable a large number or a large portion of the population to engage in digital payments, digital banking. Now I go to what is called the unified payment interface, which is where the future lies, which is where we are moving now. This unified payment interface is a layer of data which all banks can access and which all users can latch on to through apps on their smartphone. This requires a smartphone with internet connectivity and your bank details. So once you download an app on your phone, you put in your bank details, your number, your branch's code, and that is just a one-time registration that again issues you a mobile PIN, which is your way of validating transactions that you intend to make. More than 20, about 28 banks already have created their apps which sit on this data layer called UPI. UPI is also allows third-party apps. So following the standards and codes laid out under this system, non bank parties can also create apps. So we are hoping this would also push adoption. Very simple registration process. You download an app, you choose your unique ID. One remarkable thing about the UPI system is that it allows you to create your virtual payment address. which is the equivalent of your email address or your mobile phone number. And that is one single number or a one single string which replaces the bank account number. If you remember the RTGS transactions which you do on a daily basis, you need to know your bank account number, you need to know the bank's IFSC code, and you need to know the sometimes the bank's address. All of this information gets replaced by a single string of your choice, a single string of your length, the amount of data you want to put in. It could be your name, it could be your Aadhaar number, or a mix of the two. You create that VPA, select your bank on the app, provide your account details the first time, set an MPIN, and that's it. You are ready to latch on to the digital banking systems. On your screen, you'll see a few sample screenshots of an app which tells you how you register, choose your bank, and then on the third screen, the third panel that you'll see, the choice of transactions you want to make, whether you want to send, you receive, split a bill. Sending money is as easy as putting in the other person's VPA, entering the amount, confirming the details that this is the transaction that you want to put in your MPIN, hit send, as simple as sending your money to a different bank account. The system also allows you to raise invoices. So, in case you need to collect money, you put in the counterparty who you want to collect money from, their VPA in your system. You raise invoice, you raise a demand, that amount, and this sends a message to the counterparty if they're using UPI, and they have to confirm if they want to make that transaction right away. This also allows you to do regularly scheduled transactions. So, in case you need to get monthly payments from a counterparty, you can schedule those payments. The counterparty will be prompted at a specific day or time every week or month, as for the frequency you prefer, and that counterparty can then confirm to make that payment. So this is a very simple process. 28 banks have already latched onto this. We expect a few more to connect to this very quickly, and we expect that for the populations with smartphones, this will become the system to use. I'll come to wallets quickly. A lot of you have probably seen a lot of awareness raising material about wallets. These are electronic prepaid systems designed to be mobile first. Again, designed to be easy to use, small transactions, large transactions. Um, Currently, they require bank accounts to be linked to those wallets. So you need to have a bank account to load money into it, and it acts like a effectively a prepaid account. It's provided by many banks as well as many private companies. I'll take you through two different processes. As a user, you just download the app on your smartphone. You sign up on your phone with the details of your bank, load money with a bank card or net banking, and that creates your little sub account in that system. And you start using that wallet for daily transactions. If you're a merchant, there's a slightly different app to use, and you register yourself as a merchant, which allows you to accept payments to a slightly larger amount. Um, Currently, wallets require bank accounts, they require a smartphone and an internet connection, but the apps are free. Now, I want to take you through the Aadhaar enabled payment systems, which are extremely widespread. The Aadhaar enabled payment system will allow transactions to be made with micro ATMs and small points of sale throughout the country, even outside the urban and peri urban areas, with the help of a bank correspondent. All you need to enable an account on this system is an Aadhaar card. More than 99% of adults in the country have Aadhaar cards at this point. This system allows you to conduct balance inquiries, cash withdrawal, cash deposits, as well as Aadhaar to Aadhaar fund transfers. An extremely simple system to register onto and to make transactions with. When a person goes to a micro ATM or a banking correspondent, they provide their bank's name and Aadhaar card, choose the transaction they want to do, authorize and validate the transaction using just their fingerprint, take the print slip with them, and that's pretty much it. That's how the bank transfer happens. On the right, you'll see a micro ATM where a person is putting her fingerprint to authorize a transaction. There are various kinds of micro ATMs being seen around the country so far, and a variety of transactions are already happening. So these are the few options on digital banking payments. We've discussed UPI. We've discussed the points of sale that all of us are fairly familiar with. We've seen Aadhaar-enabled payment systems and the wallets. So it's a variety of options available. Different users will use different systems, and we hope that a far larger number of the population will start accepting and start using digital banking in a big way. Thank you.
I'm repeating the question from Dr. Gaurav Agarwal from ABB IITM Gwalior. His question is, what would be the impact of the demonetization on small business firms located in the very remote village areas and when they need to distribute labor payment on daily basis to the workers, particularly in the absence of banks and ATMs? Then, second
One
question.
second, one second. See, my request to all of you is that demonetization has already been done. We need to look forward. We need to look at how we can make India a cashless and digital society. We can have debate whether demonetization was necessary or whether it'll bring good to India later. But my suggestion is that today's webinar we focus on how we can spread digital literacy to make India a cashless society. So any question on procedures, any question on aspects on how we can make it faster, quicker, speedier, we'll welcome.
So next question, sir, is from Mr. Nitin Shah. He's asking, payment done to worker by banking system is good, but some problems are in our small scale industry where workers turnover are high. Workers work for 2 3 months and then goes to home at some other place. So it is not possible to bank account to open or operate the bank account for such workers. So what to do?
The Aadhaar enabled payment system is not dependent on banks only. So, users with an Aadhaar enabled account can make transactions and receive payments with a simple fingerprint. A lot of the payments under the Manrega are already taking place under the system and on a weekly basis. So, the frequency of or the turnover or the attrition rate can be accommodated by the fact that the Aadhaar number is universal, and workers can access their account at different places as they keep changing their jobs.
See, our what we have tried to do today is to bring before you all the different alternatives which are available. You don't have to be at your house, you don't have to be anywhere. You can use your mobile telephone, you can use your Aadhaar, you can use your thumb, you can use your debit card, you can use your wallet. All options are available. Some are suited for merchants, some are suited for businessmen, some are suited for individuals. Try out which is best suited for you and adapt that.
We have a comment from Mr. M. Punuswamy. He's saying that he welcomes the demonetization. At present, banks are very busy in the distribution of cash. A lot of unorganized sectors are generally doing business in cash and also they borrow in cash. Now there is plenty of opportunity for the banks to finance them. The banks should reach these sectors immediately and fund them, otherwise they will close down. This is what the comment is.
Both these banks will reach out to them. Now they are
Can I
much more
reply?
liquidity.
Can I
Yes,
reply?
please. Sir, yes, please.
See, Mr. Punaswamy, I can assure you that the government is very concerned about all this. Government has issued directions and banks will reach out to all sections of society, including all businesses.
Question from Mr. Pandya, Mr. K. Pandya. His question is, the money transactions are free or chargeable basis on the mobile apps?
So, for transactions made via debit cards, currently it is mandated by RBI that RuPay debit cards are charged only 45 paisa per transaction. So, in terms of wallet users, peer to peer or individual to individual transactions are not chargeable. Only charges are made when wallet balances are transferred to bank account.
So next question is from Mr. Vimal Ambani. He's asking, if a vendor is registered with Paytm and the retail client uses MobiKwik wallet, how will the transaction occur? Will the client and vendor need to be on the same platform?
No. In, interoperability amongst wallets is not permitted at the moment. What is permitted is only intra wallet movement. So you can move from bank to a wallet, wallet to a bank, but you from wallet to wallet you don't move. But the best thing for you is to use the universal payment interface where the back end is connected to all the banks. So actually you don't have to, in the wallet you move out of the banking system and you don't earn interest in the wallet, but in the bank your money remains with your account, and yet when you issue a debit instruction the money moves from a bank, one bank, to either the merchant or another bank, and therefore your money remains within the bank.
So we have a question of the concern from Mr. Varun Dhingra. He's saying that after the demonetization announcement, digital transactions are going to increase exponentially, and so is our IT infrastructure of banks and other players. Whether it is safe enough from the cyber attacks, because he's saying that the ISIS is at par with the international standard. The IS is at par with the international standard.
So, whatever payment mechanisms are currently in process, they are all vetted by RBI and NPCI for their privacy and security standards. They're all international standards. They are vetted and checked for privacy of the account holder as well as security during transactions. So, none of the public payment mechanisms are rolled without RBI's and NPCI's approval.
Mr. Kushal Sinha is asking that, as per NCEUS study in 2008, the unorganized sector in India accounts for more than 50% GDP, employing 80 to 85% of workforce. This sector largely transacts and thrives on cash. How do you think demonetization and digitization would impact the unorganized shadow economy of the country? What role do you see GST playing in this in the long run?
By remaining in the shadow economy or the informal sector, our informal sector has suffered a lot. First of all, when you are in the unorganized sector, you don't get the kind of access to funds that you require. You don't get the kind of licenses and the authorizations that you need, and your business is always uncertain. So, coming in the formal sector will provide enormous benefits to the informal sector by way of better access to credit, better credit ratings, and credit worthiness of the individual or the company can be checked, and there are so many other benefits. And when entire world is moving towards digital payments and a cashless system, and GST is coming in, that will not allow that every transaction has to be digital under GST. So those who are doing any business which has anything to do with indirect taxes, they have to come in the formal system. So this is a very good time actually to migrate to the formal sector, to the digital payment system. That will also make migration to GST regime much easier. I mean, we don't need to carry on just the way we have been carrying on all these years. Our informal sector and the millions of people who are working in that definitely deserve a better chance.
Mr. Sharad Valsraj is asking, how soon this need to be done for an establishment or an enterprise? How soon?
See, the GST is going to come in from April, and sooner you migrate to this system, the better, because the consumers are demanding better systems, better payment systems. People have no time these days, so I think it's really important that one does this as soon as possible. So I think this demonetization has given an excellent opportunity to all to now rethink the way they have been doing business and migrate to the new technology regime.
Mr. Abhay Budeshi asking that could you shed some light on fees and taxes associated with these types of payments?
Uh, Talking about from the point of view of merchants, in terms of POS machines, the charges which are included for acquiring a POS machine is generally the capital cost of the machine, which has now mostly been waived off by various banks, including SBI. So the only charges you incur while installing a POS machine is merchant discount charges, which range between 0.75% of the transaction value to a flat 45 paise per transaction in case of RuPay usage of RuPay cards.
Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us for this webinar. We are giving the copy of the presentation to CII, which we'll request them to mail it to all its members and to make it available to all of you. Thank you very much for this interaction.